Hi, I'm Jason, and this is the Cultural Breakdown. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny already had a tall hurdle to get over going into the opening weekend. There was always going to be movies that were eaten into the opening weekend, such as The Flash and Across the Spider-Verse. But with such a huge production budget and a really expensive marketing campaign for this needed to make around $700 to $800 million just to be considered a success. So not only did it need to have a good opening weekend, but it needed to have long legs to carry it, and that's going to be hard when you have other movies coming out like Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, Barbie. But now we're seeing problems right now that no one even saw. You got Insidious 5 now beating it out for its second weekend and knocking it to the number 2 spot. Insidious 5 made 15 million on Friday, 5 million on Thursday early showings, with about 30 to 35 million projected for the weekend for Insidious 5, which is actually pretty good considering the movie had like a budget of $16 million. So it's probably going to be breaking even on just this opening weekend. Whereas Indiana Jones, it's making around 25 to 28 million this weekend, and that's a 58% drop, which is the biggest for the series history. And even then, Indiana Jones couldn't maintain the number 1 spot at the end of its opening weekend because it was beaten out by The Sound of Freedom, which is another low budget movie. So really, this movie is DOA. I mean, it's going to lose money. It's probably not going to hit the $500 million mark. So it's just a matter of how much money is it actually going to lose. And what are we seeing now? The director is basically blaming the fans for this, saying like, well, if you don't like it, you just didn't get it, or you wanted a perfect character. So he was speaking with the Hollywood Reporter, and he was asked like by the reporter, who said like, oh, well, I like it when characters have peaks and valleys. It makes them more human. So why do you think people don't like this character or like this version of Indiana Jones for your movie? And he said like, there's a point these characters become a symbol more than a character. And so there becomes this anxiety that if you examine the humanity of a hero, you somehow weaken them. Yeah, people didn't like his movie because Indiana Jones was more human than he was in the previous movies. So he continued, and I can't speak for how fans relate and wrestle with these questions in relation to other movies, but certainly in relation to mine. I think your question almost has my answer built into it. I mean, I think you're in a sense already addressing it. Good dramas give a hero a problem. I agree completely. If a movie is about a beautiful hero who is capable of anything and is virtually indestructible and without any personal issues or concerns, then you just have a fashion video with action. Besides the beautiful hero part, he's basically describing Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character in this, like, and that's why a lot of people have a problem with her character, where she's just too perfect throughout the movie. But on the opposite side, you have Indiana Jones. There's no peaks and valleys to his character. He starts off miserable and he ends miserable. The only part that he's not miserable throughout the movie is the very last scene, which was likely a reshoot, despite him actually saying they didn't do reshoots because test audiences didn't like it. Another thing that he denied having, but they did have test audiences because every movie does. I don't know why you would deny that, but whatever, he did. And that's the issue with this movie. In the original Indiana Jones movies, there were peaks and valleys. He wasn't a perfect character. I mean, he gets beat up all the time. I mean, in fact, the very last scene of this movie, it's a direct reference and a callback to Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is a scene that follows him getting beat up and completely like hurt throughout that scene. And then they reference that in this movie because so to say that like, oh, well, he was just perfect and before people thought of him as perfect and they don't like how he is now. He is right. If it's a character who's just perfect, there's no character growth or no character arc to that. But if they're just miserable, there's no character growth or character arc to that either. He just did a deconstruction of Indiana Jones, and that's what people don't like to see. They don't like to see that kind of thing. They want to see the same character. Yes, things have changed in his life that caused him to be the way he is, but there's usually some growth or some wiggle room to there. There's no peaks and valleys here. It's just another straight line, and that's why people didn't like this movie. I mean, I guess the score is moderately successful right now from the people who saw it, but again, no one's seeing this movie, so it doesn't matter if it's really popular amongst people who are seeing it. If no one's seen it, then it's like, then so what? What's the point, I guess? I mean, if you like this, go ahead. You're allowed to like it. I mean, don't let me stop you. I personally didn't like it, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there was no character growth to this. It didn't even seem like the same character throughout most movies. There was some little glimpses to it, but those are really fleeting, and I think that was really the worst part about it, because it does seem like he understands it a bit, like what to do with an Indiana Jones character, and just completely fumbled. Either he didn't know what to do, the writers didn't, or the producers didn't let him do it. I mean, I have no idea what went wrong with this or how they messed this up, but they clearly did mess it up, and we're seeing it in the box office. But let me know what you think. I mean, did you think Indiana Jones should have been more perfect than he was, or do you think there should have been like some ups and downs as opposed to just keeping him on down the whole time? Comment below, let me know. And if you like this video, make sure you click the like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.